The Tudor story begins not in a palace, but on a muddy battlefield, Bosworth Field, 1485. Here, the fate of England would be decided not by royal decree, but by the clash of swords and the courage of men. The air was thick with tension, the ground soaked with the hopes and fears of two rival dynasties. England had been torn apart by the Wars of the Roses, Lancaster's Red Rose versus York's White. For decades, families and friends had been divided, loyalties tested, and the land itself scarred by endless conflict. The struggle for the throne had left the nation weary and desperate for peace. King Richard III, a controversial Yorkist, faced Henry Tudor, a Lancastrian exile with a shaky claim. Richard was a seasoned warrior, but his rule was shadowed by suspicion and betrayal. Henry, meanwhile, had spent years in exile, gathering support and waiting for his moment to strike. Henry, backed by French funds and a small army, marched into England, promising an end to decades of bloodshed. The battle was fierce. Every sword swing and every charge carried the weight of generations. The outcome would shape the destiny of a nation longing for stability. Richard charged at Henry, nearly ending it with a single blow. In that moment, the future of England hung by a thread as the two rivals met in the chaos of battle. But the Stanleys, powerful nobles, betrayed Richard at the crucial moment, attacking his flank. Their decision would tip the scales, sealing Richard's fate and altering the course of English history forever. Richard was killed, the last English king to die in battle. His death marked the end of an era and the beginning of something entirely new. His crown was found under a hawthorn bush and placed on Henry's head. In that simple act, a new dynasty was born from the ashes of war. Henry VII was crowned on the field, ending the Civil War. The soldiers who had fought so bitterly now cheered for a new king, hoping for a brighter future. To unite the warring houses, Henry married Elizabeth of York. Their marriage was more than a union of two people. It was a symbol of reconciliation, a promise that old wounds could heal. Their union was symbolized by the Tudor rose, a blend of red and white, peace forged from chaos. This emblem would come to represent hope, unity, and the dawn of a new age for England. The Tudors had seized power, and a new era began. The royal court buzzed with anticipation as the kingdom looked to its new rulers for guidance and strength. The kingdom, exhausted by war, looked to Henry for stability. Ordinary people, battered by years of conflict, dared to hope for peace and prosperity at last. The Tudor rose, born from blood, promised a fragile peace. It was a symbol of both the cost of war and the hope that, from the darkest moments, something beautiful could emerge. Henry VII, shaped by exile and danger, ruled with caution and cunning. His focus, stability, wealth, and crushing threats to his throne. He avoided costly wars, arranged strategic marriages, and kept nobles in check with financial pressure. Henry's reign faced Yorkist pretenders, Lambert Simnel and Perkin Warbeck, both defeated, one spared, one executed. Through shrewd diplomacy and ruthless control, Henry restored order and filled the treasury. By 1509, he left England peaceful and prosperous. The Tudor dynasty was secure, and his son Henry inherited a stable realm. But no one foresaw the storm the young king would unleash. The cautious king's legacy was a loaded gun, ready to fire. The stage was set for dramatic change. Henry VIII began his reign as the ideal Renaissance king, charismatic, athletic, and ambitious. He was admired across Europe for his intellect, his love of music and sport, and his vision for a powerful, unified England. The young king inspired hope and pride among his people, promising a golden age for the Tudor dynasty. He married Catherine of Aragon, his brother's widow, with papal approval. Their union was seen as both a political alliance and a personal triumph, strengthening ties with Spain and securing the Tudor succession. For years, their marriage seemed strong, but Catherine bore only a daughter, Mary. The lack of a surviving male heir cast a shadow over the royal household, fueling uncertainty about the future. Henry's obsession with a male heir grew. He feared civil war without one. Memories of the Wars of the Roses haunted him, and he became increasingly desperate to secure the Tudor line. Convinced his marriage was cursed, Henry fixated on Anne Boleyn, a clever and ambitious courtier who refused to be his mistress. Anne's wit and charm captivated the king, but she demanded more than just affection. Anne wanted to be queen, and Henry's desire for her merged with his need for a son. Their relationship became the talk of the court, sparking intrigue and jealousy among courtiers. He sought an annulment from the Pope, claiming his marriage to Catherine was invalid. Henry argued that marrying his brother's widow was against divine law, hoping the church would grant his request. But the Pope, under pressure from Catherine's nephew, the Holy Roman Emperor, stalled. Years of frustration followed. Henry's patience wore thin as diplomatic efforts failed and the kingdom's future remained uncertain. The king's great matter became a national crisis. The court was divided, and the people of England watched anxiously as their king's personal struggle threatened the stability of the realm. Personal passion and dynastic anxiety threatened to upend the kingdom. The fate of England now hung in the balance, as Henry's determination grew ever more intense. Henry began to consider a radical break from Rome. The king's desire for an heir and his love for Anne Boleyn would soon change the course of English history forever. Denied by the Pope, Henry VIII took matters into his own hands, determined to secure his dynasty and assert his authority. His frustration with Rome grew, not just over his marriage, but over the limits placed on his power as king. Guided by his trusted advisors, Thomas Cromwell and Thomas Cranmer, Henry made a bold move. He declared himself supreme head of the Church of England, severing centuries-old ties with the Catholic Church and the Pope's authority. Parliament's act of supremacy made this new order the law of the land. Opposition was now considered treason, punishable by death. The realm was forced to choose between loyalty to king or pope. Henry's break with Rome was driven by politics and personal ambition, not by religious doctrine. Yet, this single act would transform England's identity and destiny forever. He ordered the dissolution of the monasteries, seizing their vast wealth and lands. This not only enriched the crown and loyal nobles, but also shattered the old religious order, leaving many displaced and resentful. Those who resisted, like the principled Sir Thomas More, paid the ultimate price. Executions at the Tower of London sent a chilling message to all who dared defy the king's will. Anne Boleyn, now crowned queen, gave birth to Elizabeth. But her failure to produce a male heir left her vulnerable in a court full of intrigue and shifting loyalties. When Anne miscarried a longed-for son, Henry's affection turned to suspicion. Accused of adultery and treason on dubious evidence, she was executed at the Tower, her fate a warning to others. Jane Seymour, Henry's third wife, finally bore him the son he craved, Edward. Yet, her triumph was short-lived, as she died soon after childbirth, leaving Henry both satisfied and bereaved. The king's relentless quest for a male heir had upended the foundations of church, state, and society, sending shockwaves through every level of English life. England was now a nation apart, its monarch answerable to no pope, its church forever changed, and its people facing an uncertain future. The consequences of the English Reformation would echo for generations, shaping politics, faith, and identity across the centuries. The Tudor dynasty's future was still uncertain, its legacy hanging in the balance as England entered a new and turbulent era. Henry VIII's only son, Edward VI, became king at 9, too young to rule alone. Protestant regents pushed radical reforms, English church services, destruction of Catholic imagery, and a new Book of Common Prayer. These changes sparked unrest, but were brutally enforced. Edward's health failed, and a succession crisis loomed. Fearing Catholic Mary's return, Protestant nobles installed Lady Jane Grey as queen. Jane, a reluctant pawn, reigned for just 9 days. The people rallied behind Mary, the rightful heir. Jane and her supporters were overthrown. She was executed, a tragic victim of ambition. The brief Protestant experiment ended in blood. The throne passed to Mary, and England braced for another dramatic turn. The kingdom's religious identity hung in the balance. The Tudors' legacy was far from settled. Mary Thirst, hailed as the rightful queen, aimed to restore Catholicism. She repealed Protestant laws, restored the Latin Mass, and married Philip of Spain, an unpopular alliance. Rebellion followed, but Mary's resolve only hardened. Determined to stamp out heresy, she ordered the burning of nearly 300 Protestants, earning the name Bloody Mary. Her marriage was childless, her reign marked by phantom pregnancies and military failure. The loss of Calais and relentless persecution left her isolated and despised. Mary died in 1558, her mission unfulfilled. Her Protestant half-sister Elizabeth would inherit a divided kingdom. Elizabeth I inherited a fractured, demoralized England. Cautious and pragmatic, she sought religious compromise. The Elizabethan settlement blended Protestant doctrine with traditional ceremony. The question of her marriage dominated politics, but Elizabeth remained single, using her status as a diplomatic tool. She became the Virgin Queen, married to her people. Her reign saw a cultural and national renaissance: Shakespeare's plays, Drake's voyages, and the defeat of the Spanish Armada. Elizabeth's charisma and intelligence unified the nation. She faced threats from Catholic plots and her cousin Mary, Queen of Scots, whom she reluctantly executed. The Armada's defeat in 1588 secured England's independence and Protestant identity. Elizabeth's 44-year reign transformed England into a confident, outward-looking power. She left no heir, but her legacy was immense. The Tudor era reached its zenith under her rule. England's golden age was born from her leadership. The Virgin Queen's image would endure for centuries. Elizabeth's refusal to marry left England's future uncertain. Succession was a dangerous topic, but behind the scenes, Robert Cecil prepared for a smooth transition. The logical heir was James VI of Scotland, great-grandson of Henry VII's daughter. Protestant and experienced, James promised stability. Elizabeth died in 1603, ending the Tudor line after 118 years. James was proclaimed king, uniting England and Scotland. The transition was peaceful, a testament to Elizabeth's statecraft. The Tudors' dramatic era was over. A new chapter began. The Tudors remade England, centralizing monarchy using parliament and forging a powerful national identity. Henry VIII and Elizabeth I transformed the monarchy into a symbol of the nation. The English Reformation severed ties with Rome, creating a unique Protestant church. Religious and political independence fostered patriotism and cultural flourishing. The defeat of the Armada and the rise of Shakespeare marked a new confidence. The Tudors' ruthless ambition laid the foundations of modern Britain. Their legacy, a nation transformed by power, faith, and vision. The story of the Tudors is the story of England's rebirth.